conspiracy, cults, serial killers, and murder. All things that I love to consume, and I know you do too, you sick, beautiful, adorable-minded, intellectual freak. If you thought Roswell, New Mexico was the only place in the United States desert that has aliens, then you would be wrong. For some reason, extraterrestrials love to target dry places. But maybe there's a reason for that. I mean, the US government puts the most secretive base out in the desert, so maybe they know something that we don't. Either way, in 1977, the residents of Phoenix, Arizona, experienced an unexplainable and strange event that still drives tourists and alien fanatics to the city of Phoenix in hopes of seeing some unusual phenomenon, not unlike these two beautiful ladies right here. But yes, today we are going to be talking about the Phoenix Lights in 1997. Some alien shit, which I love that stuff. And lately, with the government just blatantly saying that there are aliens, there's probably some truth to this, which is pretty cool. Without further ado, let's unbuckle our seatbelts, go Mach 5 down the highway, slam on the brakes, and bust through this windshield and into this UFO alien case together. So imagine this, it's Thursday night, March 13th, 1997, and it's 6:55 p.m. And you just got off work, maybe just finished cooking dinner. It's time to relax and enjoy your night when all of a sudden you hear a sound of rushing wind. So you rush outside to see what's going on, and up in the sky is a large V-shaped ship flying over your house. Well, this is what exactly happened to one of the unidentified witnesses in Henderson, Nevada. So according to witness reports, a V-sized ship the size of a Boeing 747 with 6 large lights underneath the wings and one light at the tip of the vehicle acted like a spotlight flew over his home. And it flew low to the ground and went northwest to southeast and sounded like rushing wind. And the witness would watch the ship fly away and out of sight completely. And later that night, in the direction where they claimed the ship was flying, a former police officer, who is also unidentified, saw a group of reddish-orange lights in the sky. And they claimed that 4 lights were grouped together, followed by a single light behind the main group. And continuing to look at them, they claimed that within each light were 2 sources of light. And this sighting occurred in Paulden, Arizona at approximately 8:15 p.m. And it was last seen moving south. And it takes roughly 3 hours and 16 minutes to drive between the 2 towns. So whatever was flying in the sky was moving pretty damn fast, if it was able to travel that distance within about an hour and 20 minutes. And around at the same time at 8:17 p.m. in the town of Prescott, Arizona, numerous citizens made 911 calls to the local police about a strange object in the sky that blocked out the stars. They never reported any lights though, but did say that the object was solid. So that, I don't know, that's very interesting, especially with multiple people calling the police in different parts of the town. Very interesting. And again, this object was moving fast, as the average travel time between the 2 towns was about 40 minutes by car, and it traveled that time in only 2. And one could argue that it was a different unidentified flying object, but these reports came from the direction in which the strange ship was last spotted. And in the same time frame as the reports were coming in from Prescott, a few miles to the east, in Prescott Valley, the Kaiser family was standing outside and staring up at the sky. And looking directly to the west, they were able to see a cluster of lights that eventually formed into a triangle pattern. And they reported that all lights were red except for the one at the tip of the triangle. And once again, when the object flew over the family, they claimed that it was slow flying. And after watching it for about 2 to 3 minutes, it disappeared into the night sky. So hearing all the UFO activity that was coming out of Arizona, the National UFO Reporting Center sent out some of its own personnel to Prescott Valley to see if they could record any information. And here is what they reported.
While doing astrophotography, I observed 5 yellow-white lights in a V formation moving slowly from the northwest, across the sky to the northeast, then turn almost due south and continue until out of sight. The point of the V was in the direction of movement. The first 3 lights were in a fairly tight V.
What?
while two of the lights were further back along the lines of the V legs. During the northwest-northeast transit, one of the trailing lights moved up and joined the three and then dropped back to the trailing position. I estimated the three-light V to cover about 0.5 degrees of sky and the whole group of 5 lights to cover about 1 degree of the sky.
They also captured a photo of the strange lights in the sky, which we'll show here. I figured I'd do some sound effects for the photo. Very strange. I didn't understand any of what I just said, but I hope you did. And the next sighting would occur in Dewey, Arizona. Sorry if I said that wrong. Which, for the first time, is in the opposite direction from where it last headed. And Dewey is directly south from Prescott Valley. And by this point, it seems that we are starting to lose the predictability of the unknown craft. Frankie. Frankie. She's scared of aliens. Frankie. And another family saw the lighted craft exiting Prescott Valley, approximately 65 miles from where they were standing. How do you measure that? And Tim Lee, or Lay, his grandson, Damian Turnage, and his wife, Bobby, claimed that when they first saw the lights, they appeared to be 5 separate lights in the shape of an arc, believing they were at the top of a hot air balloon, so similar to a triangle. But as the strange lights came closer to them, they did say that it was more of in the shape of a V. So there you go. And just as it had done before, the craft had passed directly over the Lee family, or Lay family, I don't know. And they claimed that the object was about 100 or 150 feet above their heads, so very, very close. And they described the ship as having 1 light at the tip and 2 on each wing. And unlike the first report, they claimed that it was completely silent as it stopped and hovered above their heads, which is like really creepy since it's so close to them. But it didn't stop for as long and continued through a V-shaped area nearing Squaw Peak Mountain. And this would be the last sighting before the pandemonium broke out in Phoenix and would occur at around 8:30 p.m. And Squaw Peak is almost at the dead center of Phoenix, so this ship was no longer floating over open desert, but instead a very large city. Every time I say squaw, I want to say squaw! So I'm gonna do that. And this would result in numerous videos and photos, which we will cover next. Stay tuned. Also, just to preface, Squaw Peak is a former name of the mountain, unfortunately, because I really like saying squaw, since these sightings. It has been changed to Piestewa, I'm not good at pronouncing things, Peak. And I'm just telling you this to keep the story and locations accurate to modern day. So when it was over the Phoenix area, one man by the name of Billy Greener was driving a cement truck hauling a load near North Phoenix. And he claimed to see a second group of lights hovering over the city for roughly 2 hours. And he also claimed to have seen military jets fly out from Luke Air Force Base near North Phoenix and intercept the strange ship. But once they had reached it, he claimed that the ship flew vertically into the sky and disappeared, which is horrifying.
I watched 2 jets come out of Luke, and they come out real quick. They had their afterburners on. They had huge flames coming off of them. And then as soon as those 2 were airborne, another one come out, a third one come out from behind it. And as soon as they were airborne, all 3 jets made an abrupt turn and headed for the closest object to the base, which was in the southwest. And as soon as the jets got to the object, it shot straight up and disappeared right in front of me.
And another report came from a man traveling to Los Angeles and called 911 from a phone booth in Kingman, Arizona, which is about 2.5 hours northwest of Phoenix. And he had claimed to see a large cluster of stars moving across the northern sky. This report, though, is not substantiated as the other because we don't know who reported it. However, the best sighting of the night was made by a man named Mike Criston. All these people got names. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Criston. And his footage is the best available footage of the Phoenix lights, and is the same footage used by news outlets and researchers alike. And the 4.5-minute video involves Mike standing on his deck looking at the South Mountain overlooking the city of Phoenix at night. And originally he believed that the light was coming from the South Mountain he was looking at. However, only a few minutes later, the light reappeared floating over the city of Phoenix. So I don't know if it can what's that word called? Teleport or what? And then a second one appeared, and then a third, and then a fourth, and then a fifth, and then 3 more appeared. And 1 light was off to the side of the ship while 7 lights sat in groups together. And each light would slowly turn on, and eventually you could see that they were in the shape of an arc or a V. And oddly enough, Mike's wife Sue says that, quote unquote, "that is a totally different configuration than we've ever seen." And halfway through the video, after the light to the left of the ship disappears, we learn the time of the event. The video was recorded at 10 p.m. at night. This means that the lights had been over the city of Phoenix for about an hour and a half, based on the timing of the Lee family seeing these lights. And just as the lights began to fade out, leaving only 1 light left in the sky, we learn that Mike is about 25 miles away from the city of Phoenix. And looking at the footage, the lights look incredibly bright and even appear to flicker, though that could be the quality of the footage. Nevertheless, these lights must have been incredibly huge for them to be as bright as they were, sticking out 25 miles away. And near the end of the video, before the video cuts out, Sue says, quote unquote, "we usually see them," and then she is cut off. So this family has clearly seen lights before, but why were they never reported? And the next day, the news outlets went friggin' nuts, with numerous reports of a V-shaped UFO flying across Arizona and hovering over Phoenix. It's like signs out there. So what were these lights? Were they man-made or really UFOs? At the time, many believed that it was aliens, and so Phoenix saw a huge influx of tourists hoping to see the lights themselves. And since that night, people have stared up in the night sky above Phoenix hoping to see the lights and hoping that they would reappear. And surprisingly, they did. In February of 2007, the lights were seen again and supposedly recorded by a local Fox News station. How convenient. However, looking online for it, I found no trace of this broadcast, which is very weird and interesting. Local government officials claimed that the lights were actually flares dropped by an F-16 during a training regiment at the Luke Air Force Base. But a year later, another sighting appeared and involved a military interception. On April 21st, 2008, Phoenix residents reported seeing lights that shifted from a square to a triangle formation. And soon after, jets were spotted heading towards those lights. But the Luke Air Force Base denied any activity in the area. Suspicious. And the next day, a Phoenix resident claimed responsibility, saying he attached flares to helium balloons and released them, kind of based. And this was confirmed by a police helicopter, so the conspiracy isn't true, I guess. That time. And now the phenomenon has become so popular that spoofs are starting to appear. And this kind of stuff really muddies the research to determine the original sightings. As you can imagine, there are plenty of explanations and theories surrounding the Phoenix lights. So let's dive into them and determine the best one and explain the strange phenomenon. Just pausing the video to tell you that SourBoys, go grab some SourBoys. I have a little deal for you. Right now we have SourBoys pitch black strips and rainbow sherbet. They're delicious. So the first 200 people to go to sour.gg, put in the code aliens, is going to get 20% off. Also, you can't layer codes on top of each other, so if you've gotten codes in the past or now, you can't just layer them on top of each other. But the first 200 people, go get it now. And even if you're not, go to sour.gg and grab some candy. It's delicious. We make it here in Texas, and I've touched all of them. So go grab it. Anyway, back to the video. Our initial focus today will be on the theory of geese. Yeah, apparently this theory states that the Phoenix lights were actually geese covered in an oil, and the lights in the sky were the city lights reflecting off their shining bodies. And this theory sounds pretty outlandish to me. However, looking at the evidence, I suppose that it could be possible. For starters, geese are known to migrate through Arizona, and it is known that snow geese, cackling geese, and Canadian geese, shout out to Canada, and we don't call them Canadian geese, we call them cobra chickens, so get it right, but they all fly north from March to May, so the time frame and location could work technically. And they are also known for flying in V-shaped flocks, which lines up with the eyewitness reports claiming the ship was V-shaped. Now, the theory states that it was specifically oiled covered geese that caused the lights, but I don't believe that that is possible, because there is so much research looking into the effects of oil spills and wild fowl, and it is very apparent that the birds covered in oil cannot fly, or fly very well, that is. And I'll give you a brief anatomy lesson on waterfowl and birds in general. So if you were to look look at the wing of a bird, you would see that the feathers are all interlocking. And they are able to do this because of millions of tiny barbs that help seal the feathers together while allowing them to be flexible. And when they get covered in oil, it not only allows the feathers to heat up quicker, damaging the feathers, but it also damages the barbs, which then removes the seal, making it nearly impossible for birds to fly. So the theory stating that the geese covered in oil is kind of implausible because they wouldn't be able to get off the ground. However, there is still some evidence that could point to it being geese. And it's one specific breed of geese that could cause the phoenix lights. The snow goose and the Answer caerulescens, I'm not going to even try to say that, put it right here so they can see, I have no idea, is a bright white goose that is known to migrate through Arizona. And their white feathers are extremely bright in the sun. And when large flocks take off, they are known to block out the sun and shine very brightly. So hypothetically, it would be possible for a flock of snow geese to fly over Phoenix and reflect down into the city. Even studies show that birds, while nocturnally migrating, are attracted to city lights. And one study even showed that birds are actually attracted to offshore lights. And conducted near Sylt in the North Sea, the experiment exposed birds to various light setups, and their proximity to the light source was recorded using thermal cameras. And the research did find that the birds were more attracted to artificial lights when stars are obscured by cloud cover, impairing their natural orientation cues. And continuous light, particularly in blue, green, and white, attracted more birds than blinking light, while red light, especially in continuous mode, attracted the fewest birds. And given the risk posed by artificial lighting from offshore wind farms and other marine structures, the study concludes that blinking lights, especially red, are less likely to attract birds and could reduce collision risks. And the findings suggest that minimizing artificial light at sea and using red and blinking lights when necessary are optimal strategies for bird conservation while ensuring safety for maritime and aviation traffic. Now, it was said that the sky was clear that fateful night over Phoenix. However, with the amount of stoplights blinking throughout the city, I'm sure that it could have had the same effect as the offshore structures did. And this theory is only being considered because of the event that occurred in 2017, which on October 30th, 2017, in Alberta, Canada, shout out to Canada, a couple would pull onto the side of the road to record what looked like thousands of candles or a campfire flying through the air. But later it was discovered it was just a bizarre incident that was caused by a flock of snow geese flying over a large industrial greenhouse. And more than likely, the lights in the greenhouse were high-pressure sodium lights. And they are commonly used in industrial greenhouses and emanate a very strong orange glow. And this would explain why the geese glowed a bright orange, if they were Canadian geese, cobra chickens. Their darker colors would not have reflected the light as well. So the Phoenix lights could have been a flock of snow geese flying over the city at night. This would explain the V shape in the sky being blocked out. It doesn't really address the lights disappearing or the fact that the lights flew over large expanses of open desert. But nevertheless, it's still an interesting explanation. But the next theory is way more interesting than some goofy fucking geese. What if I told you that the Phoenix lights were in fact aliens, and the government and city of Phoenix covered it up except for one councilwoman? Because as you can imagine, the next day, residents all over Phoenix and the state of Arizona contacted the police and city officials, demanding to know what the was going on. And weirdly enough, the city of Phoenix was not really interested in finding out what the cause of the lights were. Instead, they told the residents it was a military operation. And one explanation given by the city council was that the first citation was actually a group of A-10 Thunderbolts flying in a V-shaped formation as part of a pilot training program out of the Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Tucson, Arizona. And apparently this explanation is backed by a random testimony from a resident in Scottsdale named Mitch Stanley, sounds fake to me, who claimed to see a squadron through his telescope. And Mitch is not a top-tier scientist, he is a self-proclaimed amateur astronomer. So for his observation to be factual is a bit odd. He even claimed that the planes were very high in the sky, which is completely contradictory to what the other witnesses claimed for it being only like 100 feet high. And they went on to say that the lights disappearing in the sky were due to the jets flying over a mountain being blocked by mountaintops. And all the city council members were very quick to agree that these statements were true, except for one person, Phoenix City Councilwoman Frances Emma Barwood. She was completely awestruck that the government and city were just so relaxed and not interested in finding out what these lights really were. In the following year, Barwood would run for Secretary of State. And during her campaign, she pledged to increase internet access to government records, improve voting procedures, and demand explanation for the UFO sightings within the state of Arizona. And another major component of her campaign was getting people to trust the government. Very hard ask. She even wrote Senator John McCain demanding a military investigation. And she has come out saying that she didn't personally see the lights and that she doesn't have a position on extraterrestrials. However, she does believe the public deserves to know. Damn straight. And because of her stances, she was mocked and became a favorite in UFO conspiracy theory circles. And it didn't help that her campaign manager, Stephen Bassett, a man who is a big believer in aliens, even lobbied the US government to investigate at least 5 different alien-related topics and cases, which is awesome. So basically, Barwood believed that the Phoenix Lights were aliens and dismissed the general explanation. She was labeled as crazy. And from there on, her opinions would not be taken very seriously. And it even got so bad that she had to drop out of politics because she could no longer be taken seriously. But were her beliefs that crazy? I don't think so. And one piece of evidence that she brought up constantly is that the military radars never picked up anything on their radars. And if there was a squadron of A-10s dropping flares in the sky as a training regiment, the radars would have picked them up. And this piece of evidence alone points to some type of government cover-up. And all the blame falls onto a crazy woman who was against the status quo. I say, yeah, Frances. And should you want more proof, an article posted to the Phoenix New Times on April 10th, 1997, 1 month after the original sightings, detailed a plot of political sabotage against Barwood by the mayor of the city council of Phoenix. And apparently in 1995, the city of Phoenix held a vote on whether or not to rezone the Desert Ridge district, a zone within Barwood's jurisdiction, to accommodate for the Sumitomo Citix silicone wafer plant. That was hard to say. And this plant was extremely controversial because it used a lot of harmful chemicals and would be put in a very close proximity to residential neighborhoods. And originally, when the vote took place in September of that year, Barwood voted for a tech firm to be moved into that location. However, the rest of the council voted for the plant, and it would be later installed. And as it turns out, Barwood would find a letter from the mayor, Skimp Rimza, to the parent company of Sumitomo in Japan. Essentially, both the parties agreed to install the plant all the way back in March of 1995. And she found another letter from July showing that the mayor and supposed plant opposers on the city board reassured executives of Sumitomo that the zoning and permits would be in order by the September vote, so construction could start early. And the city knew that Barwood would never allow such a hazardous plant to be placed in her district. So they all worked together to circumvent her from getting some of the members to claim to be on her side and oppose the plant, but in reality they wanted the plant to be in place as much as the mayor did. So combine that with the Phoenix Lights and it paints Barwood as this crazy person who just is inconsiderate of her jurisdiction's residents. And it is a perfect plot of political sabotage and alien cover-up. But this situation didn't go unnoticed, as some people immortalized Barwood's cries for an investigation as brave and daring to do what nobody else would. And with Barwood out of the way, nobody in political power could threaten to expose the government information or potentially classified government vehicles. And since all these events occurred, Barwood has actually been a part of 4 different Phoenix Lights documentaries, telling her story and showing the world that something bigger is going on, and a lot of high-ranking people don't want you to know. And the last and final theory is that there were multiple alien vessels, one being a scout ship and one being the mothership. Very sciencey. You see, there was multiple descriptions of the shape of the vessel. Some said that it was V-shaped and others said that it was in the shape of an arc. And some hypothesized that the arc-shaped ship, I don't know what, arc-shaped shift is the mothership, and that it is actually circular while the scout ship is V-shaped. And this would explain the different shapes and how there were more than 5 lights in the sky at one time and in one place. And it would also explain why some of the lights were orangish, reddish, and why others were white. But it's unclear which lights correlate with which ship. However, the final theory fills a lot of holes. Don't be gross. And this theory would also explain Greener's sightings of seeing a second ship flying off into space after being intercepted by those jets. They might have come into contact with the scout ship and escaped capture and just flew off. But that is all I have for the Phoenix Lights. I would love to hear what you think the Phoenix Lights were. Do you believe they are a government contraption? Or was it aliens? Why did the Phoenix ostracize Barwood and sabotage her political career? What we do know is that the Phoenix Lights are still very fascinating and a very unexplainable phenomenon that captivates thousands who travel to Arizona in hopes of seeing the lights themselves. You bet your ass I'm gonna be going to Arizona and just seeing whether I could see these lights or not. You know, I'm gonna crack this case. Probably not. No, I will. I think I'll go. Anybody that's from Arizona, I would love to hear what you have to say specifically, or anybody that's been to Arizona, let me know down in the comments below. But yeah, that is all that I have for the video. And if you have any other suggestions of conspiracy, cults, serial killers, murder, let me know in the comments below. I love reading the comments, and let me know what your theories are. I always love to see those as well. And until next time, I will see your beautiful face in the next video. All right? Bye.